Hi guys, you're with Carly on Point Blank TV. Point Blank is a global music school with courses in London, LA, and online. Just head to pointblankmusicschool.com where you can check out a whole range of our courses, including DJing, music production, sound engineering, and radio. So, on today's show, we are joined by Manchester-based DJs and producers, Austin Scott. We're going to be taking a look at a track of theirs called Beyond Thought, which is part of an EP called The Consciousness, out now on Joris Voorn and Edwin Osterwell's Rejected label. Welcome to the studio, guys. How you doing?
Thank you. Good, thanks for having us.
Oh,
again.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming in. So you guys are certainly no strangers to Point Blank. I know that you were in a couple of years ago doing a track masterclass when you were known as Brodance. So it's really good to kind of have you back as the newly formed Austin Scott. So before we open up Ableton and kind of have a chat through your production process, it'd be really good just to hear a little bit more about your name change, kind of how it came about, and I guess what it means for you going forward in a musical sense.
So it's actually quite a bizarre story and starts where you're from, in Australia.
Australia?
Yep.
Down under?
We had a meeting lined up with the Warehouse Project, with the founders of the Warehouse Project. And we told a good friend of ours who lives in Australia about this meeting.
He's kind of a bit of a mentor for us.
Okay.
And he said to us, cool, but you know, if they suggest a name change, just be open to the idea. So I thought, okay, that's pretty bizarre, but
I kind of shut it down. I was a bit...
You weren't into changing our name at all. So had the meeting with them, nothing was suggested. Had a second meeting with them, nothing. Had a third meeting with them, and then they come out with, have you guys ever thought about changing your name?
Really?
Like the other side of the world. So we thought, wow, only if you were going to suggest it, did we? And so then we started to like put the idea to people quite close to us. So like all the Fabric crew, one of them came back. He was in favour of it. He said if you wanted to ever break the US, you needed to drop Bro or Brodance.
Oh, okay.
And then it was also deemed that our music was becoming quite serious, and that Brodance didn't really fit with the music we were making, the music we were demoing.
Okay.
And so, funnily enough, it actually took us 6 weeks to come up with our own name. Believe it or not. In the end, we got there, and it's difficult because we built up a lot of momentum as Brodance, but
yeah, I guess in a way it would kind of feel like starting from scratch a little bit.
But that was also nice because it gave us this fresh platform to use everything that we've learned as Brodance, good or bad, and put it into this new project and be just, I suppose, much more considered in what we were doing going forward.
I mean, I kind of noticed a little bit of a change in sound as well. It seemed that you were going like a little bit more techno. Would that be right? Or?
Well, I think we were making a lot of this music, like I say, as Brodance. Maybe not, obviously, at the beginning. I think things were a bit different then. And that's why this name change helped, because it gave us this sort of clean break opposed to trying to, keep moving with Brodance, with where the music had started to head previously.
In terms of writing and producing music, how do you guys work together in the studio? Like, is one of you more naturally affiliated with kind of like ideas and composition and the other a bit more techie, or like what's the dynamic between you?
Generally speaking, Austin will focus more on the top lines and the more memorable moments in the music. And he can sit for hours just trying to find, could be like one or two sounds that go together that create that sort of
like this one was an example.
Yeah, this is a good example of in the track that we're going to show you.
Cool.
And after that idea has been created, which he does generally on his own, I'll then take it on and then begin to produce it and add things like the drums and the bass and just take it on to the next level. Then we'll finish it together, usually.
We'll bring those ideas together, and then we might go and work on the other person's project, or we might stay together working on the project, but it gives it fresh ears.
Yeah.
So if Scott comes in and says, look, I've made this, then you can hear it in a new way, whereas he's been listening to it for, I don't know, last 4 hours or something. You might hear things differently.
if memory serves me correctly, you guys started out using Logic, did you? So what prompted your shift to Ableton?
Well, it was when we first were asked by Fabric to come and play in Room 3.
Yeah.
Austin had the
You were
crazy
there,
That,
weren't you?
I was
I
there.
think you were there.
Was that
Yeah.
your debut? It was,
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
it?
Yeah, when we did the Room 3 with Loud House.
Yes, that's right. It was a dance club.
That's right,
room,
like a
wasn't
dance
it?
takeover.
So Austin had the crazy idea when we were trying to arrange it that we do live, that
Yeah.
we do all of our material live.
Okay.
And this is when we were in
No
Logic.
pressure.
So the only way that we could do it was if we converted all of our files into sort of separate tracks and we put them all into Ableton to make the master live file. And then that's where it all began, and it took a few weeks to learn to get into Ableton. We kind of knew it a little bit before, but it just
How long do you say it is? 3 weeks?
it's
or
about
something?
3 weeks. I think the first week is like no idea what you're doing. Second
Yeah.
week is you kind of begin to understand, and then the third it becomes like we were on Logic after 6 years.
Mm.
It just becomes like second nature.
So why do you prefer using Ableton now?
It's very intuitive, and the different screens does help a lot because we use the clip view when we're creating,
Yeah.
and then after we've done that for a while, we'll move into the arrangement.
Do you think it's quicker to lay down ideas in Ableton as opposed to Logic?
I'd probably say maybe 3 or 4 times as fast, really quick, especially with the push as well,
Yeah.
because they don't have any hardware, specific hardware with the Apple stuff, so that's really good.
So I was doing a little bit of research / Facebook stalking, and I saw a few pictures of your studio, which looks amazing. Do you want to give us just like a little brief overview of your setup? Is it at home or have you got a separate studio?
We have a space we can walk to with maybe I think it's about 5 minutes from the house,
Nice.
which is really good.
Yeah.
Makes it a lot easier if you're feeling like you've got some ideas to go down and to get into it. But we've actually almost reduced a little bit of our setup. We had quite a lot of stuff at one time,
Okay.
and we've actually sold a few bits recently.
How come?
Just because we feel that the actual having all this kind of synths and hardware
Yeah.
doesn't create good music. It comes from within creating the good music. You can create good music from sitting just on the computer in the box. Some of our music is just the computer.
Yeah.
Like
Do you
kind of-
think then it's more about the ideas?
Yes, always. You can create bad music with amazing synths,
Yeah.
but you can create the good music without any.
Agreed.
This is a good piece of equipment that we have, the Push 2. What we'll often do is we will fire the MIDI into the Juno. We like the Juno.
Yeah.
That's
something
one
we-
thing that stayed with us for
Yeah,
a
we
while.
like
Okay.
that. But we just fire the MIDI into the Juno, and then we can play around here with things like the scale that it's in, obviously the key that it's in, and you can come up with some really interesting ideas that if you can't
Yeah.
say, play keys in a classical way, then this can massively help that process.
What would be like your dream bit of kit if you won the lotto?
Maybe the Culture Vulture is quite a nice thing. It's a distortion.
Yeah, we only need
That's
to win
fun.
the small lottery, like the
Yeah.
£5,000 one or something.
Yeah, that'll do.
That'll do, we don't need much, but that Culture Vulture is good. We like that
Maybe
a lot.
buy some NS10s again.
They were good, and I think we kind of quite fancy a rolling tape delay. Actually,
Okay.
it's been something we've had on the list for a while. So nothing crazy, is it? More, actually, I think we'd probably create a better space where we are.
Okay.
So acoustically, we knew it was right. We recently, talking of equipment, we actually sold our sub.
Oh yeah, you told me that. How come?
It turns out it was confusing the mix downs a lot.
Okay.
And it was kind of actually quite a pivotal point in our production once we got rid of it and started mixing just on the monitors
Okay.
without the sub.
You say like the bass was too high with the sub, so
Yeah.
you'd compensate by turning it down on the track, and then when you export it,
Right,
you've got
okay.
a track with no bass.
So
'Cause
what monitors are you using now?
We've got the Adam A7X.
Okay, cool.
And it's not to say don't use a sub, but it needs to be in the
You
right
need to know
room.
how to use it.
Mm.
And I think at the time when we had it, we didn't really know.
Or the room wasn't right or something, but it was confusing the mix somewhere along the lines, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
It's hard to find the balance between the volume of the sub, because you can change the volume of how much bass.
The thing is, like a good sub bass,
Yeah.
like a really groovy bass line, you get into it so it sounds fat. So it's like everything sounds fat when that's on. But then it kind of might detract from the core idea of the track.
Yeah,
and everything
absolutely. Cool. Well, I also read through your feature interview that you did with the Warehouse Project a couple of months ago, and you guys mentioned that you were working on an album, which is awesome. And also, what really struck me was, I mean, you spoke about the concept behind the album, and you said that you like to make, well, you tried to make music in this dream-like state, that bit between asleep and awake, but where you're still conscious. And you said that one of the ways of getting there was via meditation, which I found really interesting. So do you want to tell us like a little bit more about that, and kind of, were you in that state when you wrote this record?
It all kind of started this, like, exploring this term called hypnagogia, which is that point between the sleep and
Hypnagogia.
Hypnagogia, isn't it?
Hypnagogia.
Okay.
Yeah. Which
And
is now
that's
the name of,
the definition of that is what you just said.
Right.
The state between sleep
Okay.
and consciousness.
which will be the name of the album, or is currently the name. But it was in this point, that brief moment before you fall asleep, I started to hear like these kind of musical ideas, like new melodies and stuff. So you think, but you can't really grasp it.
Yeah.
You can just, it's there, but you can't get hold of it.
Okay.
So it was through that, thinking, you know, we were talking together and saying, okay, how can we maybe stay there for longer? How can we access this point, but also at the same time write some music?
Yeah.
And it was, you know, really through meditation that we found that we can sort of get rid of all the thoughts that you might go into the studio with, and essentially start making music with no thought.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, meditation was a way to do that. I think with all the best stuff is you need to go in with like a no thought, and the right intention as to why you're going into the studio, not necessarily with certain expectations.
Okay.
So, for instance, we wouldn't go into the studio going, okay, I've got this expectation to make this track massive, to make this track, I don't know, so-and-so to play it, him to play it to be in the Beatport top 10.
Yeah.
Then you're going in the wrong way and you're thinking too much. Maybe going with the intention of getting across certain feeling, but really without a lot of thought. So
Because the problem is when those expectations aren't met, when like the desired DJ that you wanted to play it, or the label that you wanted to sign it to don't sign it, or don't play it, or it doesn't reach any charts or anything like that, then sets the disappointment.
It's interesting that you mentioned the kind of the feelings and emotions, because I mean, I personally think that can sometimes be a bit lost in dance music in particular. So yeah, I mean, it's just really interesting to kind of hear.
I think there was definitely some kind of feeling in this, probably initially like a bit of, I don't know, anger or something, but then, you know, through the meditation, then start to make this. So the whole album is done like that.
This track is quite, I mean, to me, it's quite hypnotic and a little bit trippy. Do you think that has anything to do with those techniques?
I think it will do. I don't know if, I'm not saying that's how we intend to, but I think it will.
Yeah.
It's one of the tracks we've got is something like 16 minutes long, and we were...
Whoa. Okay. Well, should we have a little listen? Do you guys want to chat through with kind of like how you started the track? Was it a musical idea, or was it some drum programming?
Well, with this one in particular,
going back to like what you said before, on the melody, something I came up with here, and if memory serves me correctly, if you zoom out.
So this was your initial idea?
Exactly, and it would have sounded a lot rougher at the beginning.
Yeah.
But what I've actually done here, if you can see all of that mess of notes, if you like, outside of this loop,
which would make a terrible sound.
I would have dragged in something else. So maybe I'm stuck for an idea, and I'll drag in another piece of music, but definitely not anything dance music.
Yeah.
Could be, I don't know, rock piece, classical piece. I'd then put that into the convert to melody and give me this, again, this mess of notes.
Okay.
From from there, I'll just look for a little pattern maybe that
Yeah.
works, and I see something along here, adjust some notes, and at the same time, probably also looking at the, you know, the sound that's
Yeah.
actually coming out, like the soft synth that we're using, or whatever it is, or if it's the Juno at the time.
Okay. Is that what that is? The Juno?
No, this is actually an Ableton soft synth here on the Collision synth, and it's a preset called Piano Little One.
Okay. What kind of processing have you've got some delays?
It's just kind of tweaking with some of the settings at the first begin,
Okay.
just to make it your own really. But it comes with the macros here at the beginning, which half of them are automated, so that we can, and a lot of the movement in the whole synth is automated, so that it's
Okay, cool.
keeps moving, because it is a very simple 3-note line,
Yeah.
which is just looping the whole time. And to keep that interesting, it does need, as you can hear it now,
Yeah.
it's starting to.
So, do you remember kind of what came next? Or was it a kick
I think,
drum?
no, the main,
It's mostly that line that was the main thing that stood out for us, because this is a very.
this would be like the first one, and you'll hear the drums are there. It's very basic though.
So this is a really early bounce of this track? Or?
This would be the first ever bounce, like taking Scott saying, here's your idea.
Okay.
So at this point it's about getting the idea down.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that bounce, then you're probably never going to leave the, it's never going to see light of day.
Yeah.
Because you just skip over it, you work on a new idea. When the bounce is there, then I can, say, Scott, what do you think to this?
It's obviously not too far away, but then we go in and then you've got all the drums here.
Are they drum samples or?
Yeah, it's basically out of sample packs that we've kind
Okay.
of picked up over the years and kind of favorited certain
Yeah.
sounds that just sort of we'll go to sort of automatically. So the top one is a kick, and it's nothing. We're not doing anything out of the ordinary for the drums really. They're actually quite simple. There's a little bit of editing on one of the sort of where the track comes back in,
Yeah.
which you can hear like multiple kick drums, but that's just.
So what kind of processing have you got on your drums?
So the kick drum actually just boosted the EQ there by quite a lot. And then, so the low end's up on that. This hi-hat here, which is just very simple, is no processing.
Okay.
Just go into the open hats. You have your ghost notes.
Hey.
Do you have any?
And then you've got the 16s, which are just like that, but the velocity changes there on the 16s to give it that sort of.
Give it a bit of groove.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of auto pan on there just so it's moving around.
Yeah.
It's just quite slow. And there's clap, just really basic, quite dry, simple pattern. Again, no processing.
Okay.
The thing is actually, if you're doing some of the stuff on the album, there's far more complex drums, but this one's really simple. But just you say something, if it sounds good,
Yeah.
it sounds
It is good.
That's it.
If it sounds good, it is good.
And then this is just a ride sample,
Yeah.
which is just one note. It's just, again, there's nothing on that. And then there's a small top shaker loop, which is just, it more just creates a light bed within the track, just
Yeah.
to kind of glue the sounds together. It's not dominant in the track. Then there's a top loop, which is, again, it's quite quiet, but it just creates a little bridge between certain sounds.
Okay.
Again, another one which is like a ride texture, which is quite quiet. Then there's a perk.
So if you compare that to the original one that I did, is probably just like a kick, a hi-hat and the clap.
Okay.
And it was in this point
there's a
where
few more
Scott's
layers
like
here.
drilled into it
Yeah.
and said, okay, like let's really try and
So if I
make
play all
much
the
more out of
drums
the
together,
drums.
What do you think it is that contributes to the groove of this track? Because it is, I mean, it's quite groovy.
For us, one of the first things we always do is bass lines, and our bass lines are always quite
Your
subby.
famous bass lines.
We always go with like subby bass lines.
Yeah.
And that's through really going to the clubs and feeling for us what works. You know, it's more that feeling than the sound with the sub bass line, I think.
I mean, those rolling kind of subby bass lines are very synonymous with your sound, in my opinion. Should we have a listen to the bass on here?
Yeah, this one is actually an 808 kick drum. Within the sequencer, you can obviously you pitch it. So on here, it's just
nice. And that's
and
kind
it just
rolling right throughout the track, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's it. It's just there's a small variation at the end of the loop, so it just keeps it different.
Yeah.
But then you've got the attack rolled off there, which is you don't have that click of the 808. And then just, although the track is a bit quieter, we've boosted the sub on the bottom there. And there's just side chaining against the kick drum.
Okay.
So it's like that, and it's just, there's only one bass.
The other thing we do as well is, if you go on the top line, is we put a lot of the notes into the quarter notes. So if you play that against the kick.
Yes, if you observe, every note there is in a quarter note. So none of it's on the down or the up.
Okay.
And that will help to create that sense
Otherwise
of
it become a bit straight if it's all on the down.
So you've got this kind of like ominous, drony, synthy sound that kind of weaves in and out throughout the track. What is it?
This one, which is
That's the one.
it was a single note out of the Juno.
Okay.
And I'll show you without any of the processing on it, which is just Ableton plugins, and take off the sends, which are just a reverb and a grain delay. So without, it's really basic. It's just mono, one signal. But then we put on the reverb, which is a small bit of room, and the grain delay kind of doubles it up a bit.
Yeah, that's nice. It's almost like a chorus effect.
Yeah. And then there's a slow pan to add to the chorus, small ping pong, a panning, and there's just a utility for the gain. So all together.
Sounds scary.
It just takes it on to that one, that single sound can become something quite different with just a chain of effects.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then that leads into the drops, or the main sort of, they're like the breaks. So I'll play it all together and then you can hear what it does. So you'll hear it fade off just before, so there's a few seconds without. And it happens twice within the track.
So we heard there a little vocal snippet. Should we talk about the vocal? Is that, I mean, is it a sample that you found, or is it a live recording?
So the vocal is actually from a live audio recording of a talk that somebody's given. The words were important to us, and it wasn't just, okay, let's put in anything.
Is that what drew you to that in the first place?
Exactly.
The words?
We've gone and sampled it.
Right,
because
okay.
the words are actually true to us.
Okay.
They mean something.
So he says, yeah, you're beyond thought, and knowing the original audio recording, okay, I really like that. When you hear it, you can hear there's maybe something in that. There's like a slight hook in the way he says it.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's use that.
Okay.
And in terms of processes on it, actually, to be honest, there's very little. There's this tiny bit of reverb and delay, if I remember, on the
Yeah, I think on the
sends.
On the sends, there's just a few bits kind of going into some very basic reverbs and
The voice
a simple
is kind
delay.
of like magic on its own, to be honest. So
Yeah.
it didn't really.
It sounds
need much.
wicked. And so, kind of underlying all of this is there's like a bed of white noises there.
This one's just I think it's just a white noise signal with a flanger and an auto pan. But the difference with this is we're running it on 3/4 of a bar cycle. So it takes longer for it to come round into the regular, it's called a 12-step sequence, I think it is. So instead of it being one bar and just constantly going round in the perfect loop, it will cut short and take a while before it loops back around, which
cool.
keeps it from ever sounding like the same, just constant sound over the top. A bit quiet, but it's just very quiet in the track.
Cool.
It's just running on something that won't ever sound like it's doing the same thing twice.
I think all the music we like stops about 2000 or something.
Really?
Not quite, but
Obviously,
I don't know, when stuff become sort of too clean and too well produced, I think, is when it's what we don't really like.
Cool. So, I mean, so you've got all your sounds in place, you've got all your recordings. How do you then approach the arrangement? Do you have like a kind of like club track formula, or is it like a live jam thing?
Well, mostly we do it as like a live take. So we'll
on this session view on the push, you can just trigger all the sounds.
So there could be a combination of that, or if we've say used the Juno in that could be running in. So someone will be on the Juno and can be on the push. If we're using the TR8, obviously you've got that, but generally it's done as a live take, and then we go back and edit it from there.
Okay.
But we tend to avoid like big drops and big build-ups. It was actually, I remember Derek Carter like quite a while ago said something along the lines of, why do DJs or producers put these breaks in tracks?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to edit that out.
Really?
Yeah, just leave it for the DJ. And whilst we don't fully do it, it's kind of something stuck with us that we try and keep it quite straight and let the DJ do a bit more. And
so in terms of mixing, how much are you mixing as you go, or do you dedicate a fair chunk of time at the end to do like a proper mix down, or what's your process?
Bit of both. You need a fairly competent mix as you go, just to be into it, to get into the track. From that point, we would then go and test it on a number of different, say, mediums. So it could be hi-fi's, car, iPod, stereo DJ setup. Also, we send it to friends, producer friends, not just random friends, who don't know anything about music.
Yeah.
And from there, then we might give like a proper mix down. Okay. Based on all of those new sort of information that we've got.
So let's imagine you've finished your track, you've written a banger. What's your mastering process? Do you put anything on the master bus?
On this one, there's a small chain, so there's a thing, it's a saturator with it, it's called a bit warmer, but if you can look at the dry wet, it's on very, very minimal, because we don't want it to change it too much. Then next in the chain is the EQ with the low mids dropped out, which is a trick that someone taught us in the nightclub. He said, try this, and I remembered it.
In the rave.
But it's very subtle, and then there's a reverb, but again it's set to very, very low. There's nothing too high. There's a gain just to drop down any delays that are running off on the end too long. They just roll off at the end. But that will, before mastering, that will be the end of the chain at the utility. But this is just a glue compressor and a limiter just for exporting purposes to show people, just so it's a bit louder so they can hear it properly.
So if we were going to demo it, we might send it, or we would send it obviously in that way with a compressor and limiter on.
Yeah. Okay. But it's very gently compressed and limited, so it's not, we're not forcing it to do much, it's just slightly louder.
I'm assuming you guys send your track off to a mastering engineer. Is there anyone in particular that you use, or do you kind of mix it up a bit?
We do, if we're going to put it out on our own label, we would. In this case, it was signed to Rejected. Yeah. And will be, so they use their own mastering engineer, which...
Precise Mastering.
Okay.
We, in the past, were using Snitstella. Yeah. But then we switched our P&D deal with the label to a new distributor called Come To Music. And so now we've got new mastering.
Which is called Perla Audio.
Okay.
And seems to be working really, really well. Everyone loves it. So
Nice.
But yeah, in this case, it was done there, and we just essentially signed off on it.
We send them the 3 pre-masters for the EP and wait a few weeks, and then they come back.
Finally, do you guys kind of have any like tips or advice for bedroom producers out there who perhaps want to reach the next level with their productions?
Finish tracks and ideas, or at the very least, bounce them out. What else would...
Time in the clubs.
Okay, listening to other DJs.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah.
If you can
you're old
stand in the
enough
middle
to-
of the real dance floors of clubs like, say, the Warehouse Project and Fabric and, different clubs around the world, then you
Everything
get
changes there.
you get a true sense of what the music that you're sitting in the studio, what you're making is going to do. If that's where you're making it for. Obviously,
Yeah.
if you're not making dance music, then it's pointless. But
Yeah.
I think you understand the real reason why you're doing it.
Really, I think time should just fall away when you're making music. We're in the studio, it can be there for like 5-6 hours, and that's time.
Cool, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure chatting with you both. You can check out Austin Scott's EP, The Consciousness, out now on Rejected. And they're also going to be playing Room 1, warming up for Joris Vaughan on April 1st at Fabric. And for all you guys and girls out there who are perhaps interested in learning a little bit more about music production, sound engineering, mixing, or DJing, just head to pointblankmusicschool.com where you can check out our courses. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.